So in this week's Creative Confidence Catch-Up, I'm going to be chatting with Will. So Will, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely not. Um, Mr. Will, play guitar. That was my first instrument, and I played that since I can't remember ever not playing it. I was that young. Played like African percussion, and played a lot in different parts of Africa, and have a project here called Medulla that's about engaging the community, support a sort of orphanage and school in Uganda called Mama Music. Just got off the phone with them, off WhatsApp with them. And yeah, what was the question?
That was great. A little introduction. That's great.
Thank you.
That's fine. So my first question
Russell.
to you today, in terms of like the so you're obviously into your music and music communities, etc. For me, like when I think of the word like performer or things like that, I usually think of like confidence being quite high in people. With your energy, it's really infectious, etc. Have you always had that sort of charisma, that sort of high confidence, or has it always been that way?
What am I supposed to say to that?
You go for it. Let me
Were
know.
you always wonderful, or did you develop it? Yes, I was. No, that's very nice to hear.
Mhm,
Um, I don't know is the answer.
mhm.
I think with a lot of this stuff is just doing what makes sense. I've had stuff played back to me from shows,
Mhm.
and a lot of the time I'm not aware that's what I was doing. Um,
Really?
yeah, I think especially
Mm.
with shows and stuff, I tend to get very. I know it might be hard to believe, but I get a little carried away and a bit excited. Um, so in those moments, I'm not entirely sure if I'm honest.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm just enjoying myself
Yeah.
is perhaps the answer there. So I don't really think about things like confidence.
Mhm.
I think I'm too busy with just doing
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
If
Yeah,
I had
so
time
when
to dwell on it, probably absolutely no confidence whatsoever.
mm. And I suppose that's a great tip that bit of words of wisdom, I suppose, that is, where it is about when you are enjoying what you're doing, you don't kind of see that as a confidence thing, because I suppose because you are enjoying it so much, it's when we start to oversee and overthink things that we're not so capable of doing, that's when we question our own confidence.
Yeah, I think perhaps I don't know. I can't remember when it was,
Mhm.
but I did listen to quite a in it because I had a lot of time to drive and be in transport. So it's what's worth listening to, and there's a lot of noise on the internet. I'm sure you're aware.
Mhm.
Not your podcast. You're one of the good ones to be listened
Oh,
to. Guys,
thanks.
everybody does it. But yeah, I'd be often stuck for things to pass the time.
Mhm.
And I found a great podcast of a coach called Michael Neal,
Right,
and
okay.
he'd run like a kind of like a Fraser Crane style radio show, call in, and people would call in and he'd chat with them. It was brilliant. But I think one of the phrases he said, he said it far better than I can put it, was, and I've forgotten it. No, I haven't. It was like, it doesn't matter how hard you're looking,
Mhm.
you won't find the Eiffel Tower in London.
Mhm. Yeah.
I remember thinking, yeah, it's not about trying, it's not about the level of effort or commitment. If you're looking for something where it's just not going to be there, kind of always going to be on a loser. So I think things
Yeah.
like shows and even engaging community and doing music is less about, you know, like that confidence thing and more just like, right, what's the job? How do we get it
Mhm.
past? How do we get it over the line, to use a sort of rugby term or whatever? How do we just complete this? What's needed?
Mhm.
And then it's really not about having confidence. It's about what's there and what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how that comes back to being confident. I just don't think about it, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes sense. It
but
makes perfect
but there are
sense.
some silly faces,
Mhm.
and my mother never liked them, and I just can't stop them.
There you go. But if that's your thing, there you go.
I'm afraid it is. I'm afraid it
So in terms of like
is. Totally
our
silly.
In terms of like the confidence aspect, then
Yeah,
I do find like you obviously have a strength and a passion around that sort of thing. But do
yeah.
you think we need to own in on our strengths in order to build confidence? Because basically, I think that is what's happening there. Like rather than focusing on what you're not good at, focusing on what
Mm.
you're good at.
I suppose, or just focusing on what you want to do.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I think most of the big. It's always funny because um, here's something to give you confidence. Is there was when you start doing say African music or African percussion and you approach it with say Western ways of learning. I'm sounding like one of those people, but I'm not. But classroom learning here and a lot of
Yeah.
Western music, you've got it written and you can count it, and
Mhm.
that's you sort of work it out, and then you get your feel from the notation or tab or whatever.
Mhm.
And with say music from Africa, it's a different language entirely. So a lot of those tools just don't apply anymore, if
Wow.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of your
Yeah.
training is just actually a barrier to learning it.
Hmm.
In the same way as if we start again, right? We're gonna learn French, and you start thinking in English and translating. Do you get me?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Mm.
removes you from thinking in French,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that language is very similar. But onto confidence,
Hmm.
when people stop trying to do that, a lot of times it just becomes a lot easier. As if, and I can always see it when the penny drops. You start to think in terms of this language, in terms of this percussion, and it's not like anything. All your tools for learning English, let's say, just don't help.
Hmm.
But if you're struggling all the time, just like you would if you're thinking English, translating, then translating the French back to English, you see how much more complicated it is.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one can
Yeah.
be confident doing that. You
No.
can't really express yourself. You're
Exactly.
stuck
Yeah.
in technique. And so, a way, confidence wise, is to just kind of almost surrender to just being
I
a
love
being a
that.
kid again,
Hmm.
and think of like being a kid when a child, when you learn to talk or even walk or all these really complex things. Where was confidence with regard to that? Didn't matter.
Yeah. Hmm.
You
Yeah.
you know, you know, you wanted to get the thing that was colourful over there, and you figured a
Yeah.
way to do it. There was no, oh, how do I get the confidence to try this complicated thing of chord? No, you get up, you fall over, you roll around, and in these modern age, people film it and put it on Facebook. Oh, look how cute that is. Poor kid can't walk 3 steps. But confidence really had nothing to do with it. It was like, that's what I want. It's what we're
Hmm.
trying to do. Communication, I can remember pronouncing words wrong and then having to get them right over time.
Hmm.
But there was no real confidence issues with that. I
Mm.
just didn't think about it. So same with a lot of this stuff. When I think when it starts to come up as an issue, I think
Yeah.
that's a sign you're going off tangent. Or for
Yeah.
me, it is anyway.
That makes sense. Like if you're something you're really passionate about, and won't seem like there's a barrier holding you back. But yeah, like you said, if you kind of go off for whatever
Mm,
reason, or if it's a subject matter, or if it's a theme or something, you go off, it might not be like aligned with who you actually are. So that would make perfect sense. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you have, I mean, I don't know. There's all the sporting goals, isn't there, to win the race. I mean, I know there's
Mhm.
a lot of mindset coaching, but I think that's always to try and help when a sort of lack of confidence is
Yeah.
affecting people,
Hmm.
rather than just. I mean, I don't know what Usain Bolt needs to run his record time. Maybe he does need loads of confidence. I don't know.
Mm.
Um, but generally, I think it's going off the rail. I mean, I don't know. How does that help with when you're doing your pottery and stuff, which is amazing? Do you have to build yourself up to it, or
Wow. So what happened there was in the August time, so of last year. I'd ever known really was the decorating of ceramics rather than the making of them. So it
yeah,
was literally a case of getting that scale, trying it out, and then thinking, now, not overthinking it because then I then got to show other people how to do it after.
right,
So not thinking too far in advance. So I'm thinking I've got to get used to the skill first and the way
Yeah.
I do it, find a
Mm.
way that suits me, so then I can kind of implement that and teach that to other people. Because if you're not like confident in yourself, or like you're kind of going, oh yeah, I've got this skill and now I've got to show it to somewhere else, and you overthink it, you're going to ruin it, aren't you? Whereas like taking your time out to kind of figure things out your own way and then
Yeah.
passing it on to other people, it makes it a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. It's genuine. And
Hmm.
it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess what I was hearing there was like, yeah, just get out of your own way, really.
Yeah, and just do something that you're not like used to, because we can get stuck in our ways, can't we, with things that we're used
Definitely.
to. But
Yeah.
sometimes, like, well, I've said, like, if we kind of go off a tangent, it might be a robot. Actually, it might be something that we need to do, get over that, to kind of go, actually, I need to pivot a bit because whatever is going on here is not working at all. So it can have its ups and downs, really, can't it?
Yeah. But
Mhm.
I think, I mean, I don't know. Did you feel you developed confidence through doing that, or?
I think
Um,
so.
oh, okay, cool. Well,
Yeah,
that's
for some people it might not be, but it's that
yeah,
idea of doing something, challenging something that you're not used to, and then seeing if it works. And if it
yeah,
doesn't, you kind of push it to the side.
yeah, completely. Just like falling down as a little baby
That's
trying to
it,
walk.
isn't
Mm.
it? No, that's great. But in terms of communities and like you and what you were doing at the moment, then can you tell us a bit more about like how you are using your skills as a way to kind of teach people within your communities? Like is it the new Vic you work with at the moment?
Yes, we did. Well,
Mhm,
we did our show at the end of April at the New Vic,
mhm.
and I mean, there's lots of aims with that. And the big one, I'm teaching in a lot of schools, lots of different community
Yeah.
groups, was like to put something on that give them the big stage. And I think way back, a lot of community performances, because there's no multi-million-pound bankrolling from Sony, you go wherever they could go, and
Mhm.
maybe there's not a professional in terms of making shows, so it's whatever they can share. There's something very wonderful and grassroots with that. Um, but with the new Vic, it was like, no, I want to bring all these people and
Okay.
and put on a show that's worth
Mhm,
watching as well. So no
mhm.
one should be sitting there compelled to watch. They should
Yes.
enjoy the whole thing.
Mhm,
And then to cap it off, right, we'll put on a show in the second half for them.
mhm.
And so we scheduled a whole array of programming so that everyone at whatever level could come in and at the appropriate point in the show should flow. And for an audience member, and then at the end, we had everyone come back on the stage for that joined by a drum song, which they've been learning since sort of January. And yeah, in the second half, we had myself and some of my professional Ugandan musician friends put on a show. You see what the pros can do, and I just thought, like for me, that's the perfect show. Get everything that I'm interested in, from community groups to professional high standard music to the great venue. That was all in that show. That was the vision from way back. I mean, it's our second year of doing it at the New Vic.
Mhm.
But I've done these sorts of things for many years now. So it's like, yeah, I sort of know what I'm doing a bit more with it.
That's great. Even if you're pulling for funny faces that your mum doesn't like.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially that. I'm sorry. I don't know. I did say I can't remember how old I was. I was a teenager though.
Mm.
I remember working really hard on a guitar piece, a classical guitar, so
Yeah, yeah.
oh, this is going to be great. And I mean, I don't know how it felt like forever because I was young, so it
Mhm,
might only have been a few weeks, but I think it
mhm.
was a lot. But wait till everyone here, and one bar of music that I got the right part of the net. Oh, the tone of that. No, oh, yes. So I did a recital,
Mhm.
and then people came afterwards and said, "Do you know your eyebrows were fantastic?"
Is that what they said?
And I said, "Your faces when you play, wow, how do you do it?" So I hadn't practiced that at all.
Or it just comes
But
with it.
all this didn't seem to matter. That's, I guess, what I bring to the world.
Do you know though, but when you
People
talk
tell me.
When you've got like, so that is part of obviously your personality. It's that energy I think that you bring as well, which I think in terms of performance, it's really important because it's like if you've got a massive stage and there's no presence there, there's no point,
Yeah,
is
I
there?
guess
Hmm.
I I have been called a showman, both
That's
as a
great.
compliment and an insult.
I think there's two different, because do you know, reverting back to the question that I initially put to you, where I was talking about like the stereotypes of like performers, and sometimes they have big confidence and things like that. Going back to that,
Right.
I think sometimes that can be cast as it's either energy, good energy, and
Yeah,
passion, or the
sure.
total opposite. And I think yours is more about that passion because you so like you love what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I guess. I mean, there's while I was doing the show, people again I was asking what's going on there, but there was also like technical stuff in my mind
Hmm.
because it's. I mean, I think did we have 130 community members all supposed to come
Wow.
on and off the stage at different times, and the show doesn't stop. They're
Hmm.
supposed to come on, it should blend in. We've got me and a couple of the pros tying it together while they get on, then we play with them. So there was a lot of logistics in my head as well.
Yeah.
And going, oh, I hope she puts that light on there at that point. So that's also in
Hmm.
my head as well as perform. That's the one difference with that. Whereas, say, a lot of other shows, it's just like, right, play the guitar, enjoy yourself, or play your percussion, whatever it is. And whereas there, I'm also doing several roles. So as well as getting the best out of these kids or the community
Yeah.
group, it's like, there's the technical stuff. I hope the stage hands have remembered that that's got to come on. That so
Mm.
still working another role as well. So I guess men can multitask.
Yeah, there you go. But it reminds me of, do you know the iceberg that people talk about in terms of like success and things like that? And they see success here and then all the other stuff that comes at the bottom
Oh,
that
I
no
see.
one
Yes,
sees.
yes.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me a bit like that, where like obviously you were planning, doing all these different things, as well as just the music, as what people see is, oh, the music you're doing, like you enjoying
Yeah.
yourself and stuff. They don't see all of that stuff going on underneath, do they?
No, and they don't need to. It's not
No, no.
particularly fun to share that
No, oh
bit.
no.
You know
But
that's my job. That's not theirs.
I
They
think
just have to come and enjoy.
I think it gives people, or it makes people more grateful for when obviously you're going through that process yourself of having to sort logistics and all that sort of, it makes you
Of
appreciate the music for what it is, or whatever art form it is, as and when it works well.
Yeah, yeah, of
Mhm.
course. Yeah, I think most people know as well. And there's a lot more, I suppose, in the age of social media. There's a lot more behind the scenes stuff, and
Yeah.
people sort of get into that. If you are, but ultimately, I think everything that's the aim of that. It was to give opportunities. So,
Mhm.
like I say, I want to give the chance for these young people, the community, to actually be on a big stage, to
That's
perform
amazing.
with actual professionals, not just
Yeah.
your music teacher or whatever. That's brilliant too.
Yeah.
But if you were doing, I mean, I don't know who the top potter is. Is it you? It's like you get to make a pot with Amy. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, whoever in
Or
your
I'm
group,
doing
yeah.
cooking, Gordon Ramsay, I can cook with it,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it was like to give them that chance. The Ugandan musicians, as well, as good as they are, it's not often they get a chance to perform their Ugandan music.
No.
Um,
Mhm.
Usually they're told, they're given things right. Oh, you're in this group, and tonight's, tour is about the music of Paul Simon, so you play that. That's brilliant. But I was going, no, Ugandan folk songs. We're going to do it. There's no guitar, so I'm going to have to write some. But does this fit with what we're doing? Let's modernize it. Let's go. So that gave them a chance to show their own
Mm.
culture as well. Um, the chance as well. When I started playing African percussion, people didn't really know what it was. There was no djembes, so that was built up really slowly, through the people's consciousness. Now they're everywhere, which I think is amazing. But that's only one little part of West Africa, one language of music, if you like. This Ugandan stuff is so different, such different customs, different, a very English influence in Uganda. And it's like, right, let's bring that as well. Let's show it. Let's have people see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like there's a whole range. So for them, that was a chance too. because it's not often, I think, that they get the chance to share that side of themselves. So yeah, the whole point was to give opportunities. I forgot what the question is. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. We've into community and creativity, so it
Ah,
perfectly
yes.
aligns. Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay.
But I like the how you were talking about as well the so the different places and
Mhm.
how they have like different sorts of sound and things. I love that because like when I think back to some music in terms of like African sort of styles and things like that, you sometimes think of a certain type of what you think it would sound
Yeah,
like,
of
but that's really interesting. You say how there's lots of different types, and you were kind of creating awareness around that. I love it.
Well, yeah, just I mean,
Mm.
it's lucky. Again, totally, as you say, authentic or whatever, or what your passion is. Because
Mm.
I only discovered that through being on tour and meeting different musicians. So it's not like I went out and it's not some mastermind that seeks it and finds it. It's like
Mm.
as you're playing, it's like, oh, you're from Uganda. What's the music like there? You end up just there's a lot of downtime and just playing, and that sounds really good. Um, you where you hear the beat and the type of drums and the function of them isn't the same as here. Oh, show me that. I'm interested. And from there it just develops. So it's been about discovering it myself as well. And then once kind of like your pottery almost or your skill, it's like, all right, how can we bring this to people and get and share what I've experienced as well.
Yeah.
And see if it affects them like it did me. Um and oh yeah, and it was brilliant by the way. Everyone was so good. Such a great
Yeah.
show. So very happy about that. Yes, yes. Creativity wise, similar to the way a lot of these rhythms and stuff are put together. Again, that's part of so a module I'll have with any group is based on, I mean, composition. That's what we're
Mm-hmm.
here. That's what it's called here. And it's like a lot of these things aren't based on writing or counting. And I can always tell the difference between someone who's counting and who's playing
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
again, one yeah, and you're just like, right, yeah, this is just stuck in counting.
Mm-hmm.
We've put a barrier there. But a lot of
Yeah.
these rhythms, there is a great tutorial uh, illustration
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. I think it's free now, called Folly, and it's just that he's actually talking different phrases, and then you see how they translate onto a drum.
Oh wow.
So what they're actually playing is phrases, word phrases. And I think when I learned that years and years ago, unlocked a load of things. Again, it's like, these rhythms aren't really strict pieces of musical. The way that orchestral pieces, you're playing classical in an
Mm-hmm.
orchestra, it's very strict because there's that many players. It has to be structured. It's brilliant, by the way. When I talk of passion of this, it sounds like I'm dissing our stuff.
No. I
No,
completely get
but
it how it's very separate. I like it. I
yes,
like it.
it's
Yeah.
just a different
No, that's
approach
cool.
and different language. But given that in mind, it's kind of like, right, okay, so show that to our groups. Right, these rhythms are written with word. What do we know? What silly sentences can we make up and get some rhythms? There's a whole element of in the show as well, rhythms that they've written, solos that they've written, moves that they've come up with themselves, and put that into the show as well. So it wasn't strictly like, right, this is the Ugandan. You learn this. It's like, no, it's got us in it as well. So there's lots of different call and answer responses that have been written by the people themselves. Yes, there are quite a lot of Stoke City references in there. You won't hear them because they're on the drums,
There
but
you
that's
go.
how they came up with them. So there you go. Yes.
Yeah, but I like as well how it's you through the different connections with people, you're forming these stories and like the to make these big sort of musical pieces. And I just really like that. It's a way of storytelling. Yeah,
Yeah,
through the music. I
very
love it.
much so.
Mm, mm,
Very much so.
brilliant.
Mm.
No, well, it's been fantastic speaking to you today. Honestly, I probably could speak to you for hours and hours, maybe on different things. Do you know what I mean? That
Of
would
course.
be a good,
Of
yeah.
course.
But if my last question to you today is any words of wisdom or encouragement that you'd like to leave us with today?
Words of wisdom, like I'm anybody. I don't know. I think that one of just don't try and no. What it's all so contextual. I feel very wrong to prescribe anything. I can only share what's worked for me. But yeah, getting out of my own way and just enjoying it, or accepting it, maybe because it's not always fun. But it's like, yes, rather than making it about myself, or no, what does this mean if I do this? What does this mean? Or I tend to find there's a lot of distraction. And again, very easy in the social media age. The amount of guitarists I've known, they thought I was doing great. I was really happy, and then I saw someone that could go widdly diddly diddly a little faster than me. Oh my God, the world is an awful place now. There is no God.
All
And then
that
lock
imposter
themselves away
syndrome.
until they can go widdly diddly slightly faster. And it's like, well, yes, you've done it, but did you really want to? What was really, is that a compulsion rather than an inspiration? So
Yeah.
for me, I always try to ask that, what's distraction and what's inspiration? Don't
Yeah.
always know, but usually it's kind of like something pulling you, but not really fulfilling. Because no one's I know has been happy going widdly diddly slightly faster than the guy on Instagram, but I've seen a
Mm.
lot of people do that, and I understand the pull as well, you know. So yeah, I don't know if that's any sort of wisdom at all.
It's finding the balance. I like that though. It is finding the
Ah,
balance and not
you
kind of
said it. You're much
competing
better.
against everyone else, by yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So that's probably the only one. What's inspiring you, and what are you feeling compelled to?
I love that.
Um, and they look very similar because they both
Mm.
have a great energy about them and can drive you to do monstrous things in the name of achievement. But yeah, so I guess just try and find the difference between those two things, I suppose.
That's brilliant. Well, yes, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.